Good evening, friends. Ken McAuliffe here, the jazz vinyl lover, back one more time. I wanted to thank everybody for all the nice comments you make on my YouTube videos. I really appreciate it. I write about jazz for a few different magazines, and jazz magazines really don't pay anything, but you do it because you love it. I was a jazz musician for a number of years. I've been listening longer than I was a player, and it just gets in your blood. And if I can do anything to help people out there as far as choosing jazz vinyl, it's a blast for me. I have a certain amount of knowledge, and I'm passionate about it. Jazz is a maligned art form. Jazz is like the least selling music in America, which I think sort of mirrors where the country is at. We have a country that worships, fast food and Adriana, whoever, and really horrible auto-tuned voice instead of people who can really sing and people who can really play instruments. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about Joe Henderson today. I posted a Joe Henderson video a while back, and someone wrote in and said, I can't hear a word you're saying, so I deleted it. But then somebody else said, put it back up. So I will try to go through the few Joe Henderson records that I have. And I think the point of my first video was that I think his Blue Note records are really well known. Page 1, Mode for Joe, Inner Urge. Henderson's one of the great tenor saxophonists. I'm reading Wayne Shorter's biography right now at the moment, because I'm lucky I'm going to interview him hopefully within a week or so for a stereophile feature. And I read that Wayne was a heavy drinker, and at one point Miles was so pissed off he brought Joe Henderson on the gig just to kind of like scare Wayne. I think he was also doing it to really see what it would sound like with two tenors, but that kind of put the fear of God back into Wayne Shorter, and he got his act together not long before Miles' second great quintet disbanded, and they did In a Silent Way and the Bitches Brew. Those records with the Lost Quintet. But anyway, so yeah, we all know, and they go for stupid money on eBay. I'm really tired. Page 1, great Inner Urge with Elvin Jones, a New York copy, and then I have a Music Matters version of In and Out. I'm not a big Music Matters fan. I think it's a lot of hype. They sound really pretty. They don't sound anything like the original recordings. My feeling is if you want something close to the source and you don't want to spend crazy money, look for Liberty with a Van Gelder stamp in it. That still has the essence of what a Rudy Van Gelder Blue Note record sounds like, and that's what the musicians actually heard. I sort of feel like the Music Matters series, and I can go on about this probably ad nauseum, but they sound like they took the musician and put him in a new studio. I don't want to hear a new studio. I want to hear Rudy Van Gelder's. I was lucky enough to go up there a while ago. It's an incredible citadel, chapel of sound. That's the sound I want to hear. Anyway, after Blue Note, he did a lot of great records on different labels, starting with, and this is not in chronological order, Contemporary, Relax in the Camarillo. I think this is probably Peter Erskine. There's Contemporary. It's a reissue of some sort. Great West Coast Cats. I guess a lot of players in the early 70s, mid-70s went to Europe. Joe Henderson went to the West Coast. He has such a beautiful sound, and he was a great composer, an entirely different composer than Wayne Shorter. But I guess in a way, actually, he wrote songs that have become more standards in the jazz workbook. If you're a jazz musician, you know the Real Book, which was like the illegal fat book of all these jazz tunes that people would blow on that weren't necessarily legal or literal or exact translations or transcriptions, but that's the book that everybody learned to play from. And Joe has a lot of tunes in there. Blue Boss is the one that comes to me, but there's much better ones. Black Miracle. He really experimented with different musicians. Some of the records have electric keyboards. Like at the same time that Herbie was going electric as well. The Black Miracle's great. Milestone, I believe. Let me just run through them here. This has recently been reissued. Black Mirror. Mirror, with Chick Corea, Ron Carter, and Billy Higgins on MPS. This is sort of more of a blowing record. I guess it doesn't have what people might consider, great compositions, as he was so well known to do. Earlier on, Power to the People with Jack DeJohnette. I think Jack DeJohnette, Ron Carter, Mike Lawrence, just really hip stuff. This record is probably a little bit harder to find. None of these are hard to find, really. They're easy to find on eBay. They don't go for much money, and they are fantastic records. If you want to get in on, jazz records that don't cost a lot of money, original pressings that are just fantastic performances. All the Joe Henderson stuff. There's a great Ron Carter playing electric. Oh my God, what a sin. I'm surprised he didn't tack himself to the wall. Young Jack DeJohnette, young Herbie Hancock. He does Lazy Afternoon, Isotope, which is one of his great tunes. Black Narcissus, one of his great tunes. What year is this? This is 1969. I think that might be one of his first records after his Blue Note period. And let me see what year Black Miracle is, 'cause I don't really know off the top of my head. It's hard to read. So there's the back cover. And I think he does Invitation on here. But another great record. Power to the People. I showed you Black Miracle. Okay. This was sort of his comeback record. With Al Foster and Charlie Hayden, I think. Is this the Village Vanguard? On Red Records. More of a real blowing session. But I think this sort of brought him back into people's consciousness. 1987, much later, at the Genova Jazz Festival. I think Joe had a lot of drug problems. He was always very, very thin. I just have a couple others here. Really just one more. Joe Henderson Quartet's Tetragon, another really early Milestone record. And this is a Milestone reissue. This includes Invitation, The Bead Game, one of his tunes, Tetragon, one of his tunes, as well as stuff like I've Got You Under My Skin and Waltz for Sweetie. This is 1967. I don't know what time. I'm thinking his last Blue Note record must have been around maybe the mid-60s. Anyway, any record with Joe Henderson. They recently reissued Barcelona, I think, that has like a lot of weird, bizarre synthesizer stuff. That one I don't care for, but that's just me. You might dig it. But Joe Henderson, yet another little corner of the jazz world that not as many people know about, and he's one of the great, great tenor saxophonists. You know, he came back in the 90s and did Lush Life. He was on Verve or Polygram, got a huge, reappraisal of his work. He played with Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, I believe. It was a really big deal. He won a Grammy that year for Album of the Year, and he passed shortly thereafter. But a great, great tenor player, instantly recognizable, and definitely worth checking out. And thanks again for watching my videos and checking in. I really appreciate it. I'll try to keep it interesting. I try to do a little more often, but I have so much going on like all of you do, and jazz is our respite. But thanks for checking in. Jazz Vinyl Lover. Cheers.